The guys in the locker room telling jokes, you know, suiting up, getting ready to go out and perform. It felt a lot like that. It's like old home week when we get back together, getting the band back together.
We all can't wait to see The Expendables 4. I'm now going to open it up to the crowd Q&A. Let's give Randy a round of applause. What a career, what an absolute legend. Pleasure to have you in Manchester. Yeah, we've got the two microphones here.
Hi Randy.
Hey.
How's it going? So I had a few questions. So one is about the age. Of course, you became the oldest ever champion. There must have been a lot of doubters there during this time. How did you ignore them and then have such self-belief in yourself?
I never really bought into what anybody thought about what I was doing in the first place, so it wasn't hard to ignore them. And almost from my very first fight at 33, almost 34 years old, everybody thought I was too old already. So that was kind of the stigma that was attached to all the questions from the media going into every fight. Oh, what about your age? What about, it was always the same thing. So I never worried about it. They were just numbers. I was accomplishing the milestones that I set before myself to head down this trail and this journey, and just stay focused on that. What I was doing, my own improvement, how to get better, you know, pick myself back up in those losses and deal with it, figure out where I can do better and become a better athlete, and I think ultimately at the end of the day a better person.
Thank you. The other one is about the Team Quest days. So Team Quest has become such an integral part of mixed martial arts. When you were there, did you know it at this time that it was such a special place, or was it maybe after years of reflection then you realized that Team Quest was so special?
Well, it was an interesting journey. You know, Dan Henderson and I, like I said, he's one of my best friends, and we used to do these exchanges. He was living in Huntington Beach, California. I was living in Gresham, Oregon. Actually, at the time, I was living in Corvallis at Oregon State. And I would go down and train with him for a few weeks. He would come up to Oregon and train with me for a few weeks, and we'd just keep going back and forth. We both kind of got tired of all the traveling. We were already doing enough traveling. There was no such thing as an MMA gym at that time. You know, Lion's Den was coming up. Pat Miletich Fighting Systems was just coming online. Danny moved to Oregon, and a friend of ours owned a gym that was failing. He said, hey, you guys should take over this gym, run it as a business, but start an MMA school in there. And we thought, that sounds like a pretty good idea. So him and I we assumed the ownership of this gym, realized very quickly had no freaking clue how to run a business, just a bunch of knucklehead fighters. But we put mats in the aerobics room. How we didn't break all the mirrors in that place, I have no idea, but we put mats in there, and that part of the gym flourished. We're getting 30 guys coming to practice every day. The rest of the gym was crickets. We had the place to ourselves, which as a business is not a good situation. So we ended up closing the gym, auctioning off all the equipment to pay our back rent and kind of get out of debt with it. And that's when Team Quest was founded in the back of the car dealership up there in Gresham, Oregon. Matt Lindland was moving back to Oregon after the 2000 games. He started this car dealership off of his name. We needed a place to move our mats and move all those guys that were coming to the MMA workouts. And so we moved into the back of this car dealership. It was a crazy place. But next thing you know, we're getting 40 and 50 guys showing up to practice every day. And we start scratching our head going, man, obviously we don't know how to run a damn business, but we need to start running this gym, this martial arts training center as a business. And that's when Robert Follis came to us. He had been managing a couple of JKD gyms in the Portland area. He wasn't very happy with his arrangement, so we kind of pulled him in to Team Quest and organized that as more of a business with a membership and created a fight team and all that stuff at that time. And man, the place flourished. And the thing that was special was those guys. That was a crazy group of gentlemen in there training. I mean, the names are insane. Besides Dan Henderson, myself, and Matt Lindland, we had Chris Lieben, Chael Sonnen, Ed Herman, Nate Corey, Evan Tanner. I mean, the list just went on and on and on. You could have sold popcorn to most of those workouts. They were just ridiculous. And there we did put holes in just about every wall in that place. We started making, anybody that puked had to sign the puke wall, the Technicolor yawn wall. But that was a goal, you know. You don't know, you're not making them work hard enough if nobody's puking yet.
Just got one more as well. So I just want to ask a few things about Extreme as well. So in terms of experience you have it all, but I'm interested about the new up-and-coming fighters who you have. So people like Casey O'Neill. So are there ways which maybe aren't very clear to us fans how you assist these new up-and-coming fighters in their career?
Well, the truth is I created a facility and attracted a staff and a group of fighters. We have about 40 fighters that train out of Extreme Couture in Vegas, and they're second to none. It's a great place. There's no ego. That's our motto. Check your ego at the door. It's only going to get in the way. And we attract like-minded people. We beat the dog snot out of each other, but we make each other better. We don't do it with ego at heart. We're not out to prove that anybody's any better than anybody else. We're all striving for the same things. And you got Eric Nixick in there, Dennis Davis in there, my son Ryan running the place. And honestly, they're the ones pulling the weight there. I'll show up on an occasional day, wrestling days usually, which is Wednesdays, to wrestle. But I'm not in there banging with those guys anymore. Like I said, my neck can't take that kind of abuse. But again, created a system and a facility that allows these guys to pursue their dream, and everything they need to be the best is under that roof. And that was our goals when we set out with Team Quest, was to bring all the pieces of MMA into one place so I didn't have to travel all around town to get all the different pieces. And the same thing is true at Extreme Couture. We got Francis in there, Misha Tate, Kevin Lee. I mean, there's a whole plethora of amazing guys, and we just seem to be gravitating and bringing in more and more all the time. So it's a very competitive place, but it's a great place to learn and achieve your dreams.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Hi again, Randy.
Hey, mate. How are you?
Hi, yes, good, thank you. Kind of a two-part question, but the same sort of direction with it. Obviously, being a pioneer of both the sport and UFC as a business early on, you've had a lot of expectation on your shoulders to kind of continue performing. Which crowd would you say was probably the toughest going to in terms of trying to win them over and kind of have a confidence boost from the reception that you would have got? And I suppose, is there any particular crowd that you would have wanted to prove yourself in terms of like a home state crowd that you would have felt like you really needed to do that because they are already your people?
You know, I think it's been a pretty amazing thing in this sport because our fans are incredible. I mean, they're amazingly dedicated to the sport. I meet fans all the time. Some of them tell me things I forgot about myself. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. So I never really felt like I had to prove anything to any of our fans or any audience. They were rabid. They were so into it that you really didn't have to try. You just be yourself. I tried to keep it simple. I wasn't into publicity stunts or talking shit or any of that stuff. I just tried to be me. And I think people could relate to that. And they didn't matter whether I won or lost. The fans were pretty good to me all the time. And I think it's because I kept it simple and just was myself. I don't know if that really answers your question, but I didn't really feel like I had to prove anything to anybody. I was there to prove things to myself.
Yeah, that's certainly why I obviously ended up, as I mentioned to you earlier, following UFC, but certainly your career. If you was to try to, though, if I was to press you on this question, try to pick one event or one arena that you would have gone to that you just thought was maybe just that little bit tougher of a crowd, perhaps because of the opposition you're against, is there one in particular, or you just felt that comfort for that?
I think probably the most interesting place I fought was at Budokan in Tokyo. It's a big sumo basho arena. They had tatami mats in the warm-up area. And I had to go to the bathroom before my fight. I went trucking into the bathroom. There were no urinals. It was just toilet seats, no walls, no nothing, just an open bay of toilet seats. And this toilet seat was so big, I had to hold on to the sides so I didn't fall in. It was made for sumo butts, not my ass, that's for sure. So that was probably one of the most unique, again, a very unique crowd in Japan because they're so quiet and so respectful. They clap, they don't scream and cheer and a lot of the crazy stuff that we do here in the UK or in the US. So that was probably the most interesting place I ever competed. I'm going to keep myself from swimming in the toilet.
Thank you very much for your time. Take care.
Thank you.
Hey Randy, okay.
Hey, man.
So you mentioned earlier about your fight with Lyoto as your final fight, the Rubik Cube to solve the puzzle. So I think my question is, what was your sort of game plan going into that? What did you think about that fight prior to fighting? And what was your game plan to win the fight?
Well, I think with just about everybody I fought, I wanted to close the distance and get my hands on them, force them to wrestle with me, certainly in the standing position, but even if I got them on the ground, I was pretty good at floating over the top of them and kind of making their life miserable. And that was the key with Lyoto, was his footwork was so different. He was so elusive with his footwork and the way he moved his feet and the way he set up his kicks and punches. Obviously, he kicked me in the mouth and I didn't even see it coming. I thought he punched me until my teeth flew across the room, but he was just an interesting, very, very good athlete from that Kyokushin karate background. So my objective was to get my hands on him, force him to work and struggle if I could hang on to him and put him against the fence, like a lot of the other guys I fought. It was just proved to be difficult to get a beat on him, to get him to slow down long enough to close the distance. And I felt like I'd won the first round, even though there wasn't a whole lot, honestly, that had happened. But I landed the only significant blows in that round, and then, man, he threw that freaking crane kick, Karate Kid bullshit, hit me right in the mouth and knocked out all 4 of my front teeth with my mouth guard in. So it was pretty incredible. And that crowd was ridiculous. 55,000 people. I want to talk about a sphincter factor. Holy hell. Walk out in front of that big a crowd in your board shorts.
Cheers, thank you.
You bet.
Hi Randy.
Hey.
What is your favourite fight that you fought? And what is your favourite fight you've witnessed?
My favorite fight that I fought was that Tim Sylvia fight in Ohio. Coming out of retirement after 13 months, facing a guy that's 6'8", I would look like Mutt and Jeff in the cage. And that crowd that night, again, everybody thinking I was nuts at 44 coming out to fight a guy that size. So that's still my favorite fight for sure. Probably the funnest fight I witnessed, I would say there's 2 of those. The first one was Vanderlei Silva and Dan Henderson at Satayama Super Arena, and that was when they started allowing kicking, stomping, and kneeing on the ground.